My name's Suzanne Caldeira. I'm a mortgage lender and have been in mortgage lending for 24 years. So name this money and impact. I've dealt with so many people dealing with money aspects of how are they going to get their first house, to refinances, to reverse mortgages, and everything in between. And then the other name of the program is Impact. And throughout my life and career, I've been able to meet some extraordinary people that have made a difference on me both professionally and personally. And today I get to have on my show Kelly Lichtenberger, who is an author of Prospect Like a Girl and Vice President of Sales at Hi Bob.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am delighted that you're here. I am amazed by your story and how you've gotten here, but let's take it to the beginning. Where are you originally from?
I grew up in Connecticut, in Waterford, Connecticut. And went to school, high school, but then went to college in Boston and moved out to Austin, Texas for a time, and then came back to be with family.
Did you go immediately into sales?
I went immediately into sales. I actually started before college. I started selling encyclopedias door to door. I knew I wanted to go into sales. So I thought the thing that I hear is the hardest part of selling is the objection handling and the rejection. So I better get a handle on it. So I did door-to-door sales. And once I mastered that, then I was off to the races.
How old were you when you were doing that?
17 to 19. And you would go to these neighborhoods. We would go all over the country. Yeah. You'd get to a neighborhood, you'd see all kinds of kids stuff, and you'd basically dive out of a moving vehicle to claim the neighborhood, and they would say, remember that 7-Eleven back a mile ago? Yeah, that's where we're going to meet tonight at 10 p.m. Like now you would never do that. Like it just blows my mind. And I ended up loving it. I became the #1 salesperson in the country twice. They flew me out to Italy to get my award with others that sold throughout the world. And I just thought, this is the best thing ever.
Were these the Britannicas, the Encyclopedia Britannica?
These were actually Collier Macmillan.
Okay.
So gave Britannica a run for their money. So Collier Macmillan, and carry them through neighborhoods, and let me tell you the experience. You'd have people that were mad at you for knocking on their door. You'd have, you'd go into strangers' homes. Like again, I just think of how today none of that. People don't even open their door today. So yeah, you'd go in and you would show them and talk to them a little bit about, why they're so important versus spending time having to go to the library. And anyway, it was just a great experience.
My mom fell for that. We had the Britannicas. I think she still has them in a box somewhere.
There you go. Well, it was obviously way before there was the search engines, so you did have to have something to get your schoolwork done. So it was quite an experience.
And did you feel either, hey, I belong here, or out of place when you won that trip? Like, what was the age dynamic from your age versus, the others?
Oh, I was the youngest, for sure. But yeah, I loved the experience just because I thought, I grew up in a small town, so going to, travel internationally for this was just great.
And how did you deal with rejection? Because, all those stories that you're saying, they're shutting the door on you, they're not letting you in. Did you see it as a game?
It became a game. So that's what I was working on. So I would have people, so at first, the door was slammed and you just feel so uncomfortable and shaky and walk away. And then as time went on, they would, I'm going to call the police. And I thought, great, because it was summertime. And I thought, well, there'll be AC in that police car, so that'll be nice. And then the last day I was in Virginia, and I'll never forget it. And I had this man open the front door and he was screaming at me, and I write about this in my book. He was screaming at me and spit was actually touching my face and get off his property. And I started to walk away and I thought, not today. So I walked to the back door, knocked on it again, and he saw me and there was fire in his eyes. And I said, oh, thank goodness, a smiling face. Guy at the front door. What a jerk. And I just left. I called my parents, said, can you fly me home from Virginia? I think I'm done with this. I've learned about rejection. And off I went.
And how did you work through, getting, understanding that you need to get no's? And maybe a lot of no's.
Yeah, so what I ended up learning about no is that yes, in sales is great, because obviously there's going to be a win. No is actually still good. because I know that they are saying no, but I have to figure out why. Did I not find the pain? Did I not get to the bottom of what it is that they really need? Did I not understand? Maybe is the worst answer in sales, because they're just pushing you off. So that's actually what I try to avoid. So now no is still great. That's just my next challenge. And I move on from that.
So from the encyclopedias, where'd you go?
So from encyclopedias, got through school, and I went into technology sales, and that's where I've stayed my entire career.
And is that how the seeds got planted? That hey, I'm making progress. Like what talk to me about the progression of how you worked your way up.
Yeah, so I started my career in technology sales, doing sales development, and that's what I've stayed. I'm a global VP of sales development today. I loved it. So it was on the phone, and back then, again, dating myself, we didn't have the internet. So it was phone books. It was, somebody you might know, or somebody referring somebody. But I loved the phone sale. I loved it, loved it, loved it. That was the challenge, because now I had people slamming the door on me. This is the worst case that happens, is they hang up the phone. No big deal. And then I started training people, and I got into management doing this. But where others I saw going into actual field sales, I wanted to stay helping people start their career, because I thought it was so great that people gave me the opportunity, and I wanted to give others that. So I continued, and here I am still training people, but now globally. So I have different offices throughout. But the one thing I always come back to is that phone sale. So I believe in cold calling still to this day. Part of the reason I did write the book was talking about emotional intelligence over artificial intelligence. So much of the world is leaning towards the artificial intelligence, and I want to hold to how do you work on building relationships and stop selling the product and learn who people are and meet them where they are. So that's what I train people on today.
And have you had any resistance from people saying, no, I want to figure out how to scale, and I want to have technology, and this is going to slow me down? Have you ever had that?
Yes, there's always that. And I think now with AI, so much of the talk, that's what people are saying. Soon we won't even need people. The cold call is dead. And I love that. And the reason I love that is because if it's dead, nobody else will do it, and my teams will get through to people. When COVID hit, it's a perfect example of the top-end salespeople, some of them that I knew, were coming to me saying, I don't know how to find business now, because they weren't going out and meeting. It had to be over the phone. They didn't know how to open those doors. So that's what I work on training. And at the end of the day, it's just meeting people where they are. People get so hung up and they want to sell, and that's what people say negatively about sales. It's that used car salesman, they're pushy, they're all of those terrible words. So how do you make it where it's not all of those things, and it's actually all of the things that some of my best friends that I have today started with? Either I was working with them or I was selling to them.
And now, why prospect like a girl? Have you found that women struggle?
No, it's actually the opposite. Women are 11% more successful in sales, and the reason why is because actually we doubt ourselves more. So when you doubt yourself more, you ask more questions. We don't think we ever have all of the answers. Naturally, that is a big part of what emotional intelligence is. So we're asking the questions, it's active listening, you're trying to get more information, and that's how you tap into the pain, really. So nobody's gonna buy anything, even personal, professional, unless the pain is great enough. So what happens a lot of times is we miss finding out what the pain is by just trying to get our product information across. So really thinking about what it is that they need. And if they don't, fine, move on. So that's part of what it is. So women are more successful for that reason. So the book isn't just for women, it's for men as well, to really tap into that emotional piece.
And what is the aversion to the phone? I still struggle with the phone sometimes. It looks like an elephant on my desk,
Yeah. Again, it's that fear of the unknown. How do you open the door? How do you talk to them? How do you meet somebody? You're not seeing them, you're not looking them in the eye. How do I get them to listen to me calling in? So I think that's what it is. And because it's not a skill set you're born with, you have to work on it. So I tell people all the time, you know, if you're an athlete, you don't just show up on game day. You have to practice. And it's always changing. So what might work today might not work in a few weeks, so you got to change it up. Maybe it doesn't work with certain levels within an organization, maybe certain industries you have to change. So that's it as well. So it's not just all packaged up neatly in one box. Here's how you do it. You have to work on it.
For you, in developing people, are there certain people that give you more joy to work with?
I absolutely love, again, people that are starting their career. For me, it's very rewarding to watch them not only excel, but then get promoted within a company. So I take great pride in that, so that's why I've continued there as well. Again, watching somebody light up because they've been given a chance that they might not have had, and then build a career from it, so rewarding.
And what are the things that are the drags that Kelly's like, oh?
I think it's still a drag when you see somebody that has so much potential and unfortunately they're not living up to it. So that's the hard part for me. I think we are in a world of just immediate gratification. So when people do have to get into a routine, they have to follow a process. That's very difficult for some. And it still is sales. So there's a lot of people that have grown up now that everybody gets the trophy and you tried, and that's good enough, and it's not good enough when it comes to your career and actually being in sales. You got to get over the line, you have quotas, so really trying to get people that you know, sometimes I just want to shake them like there's so much more that you could be doing. So that's, for me, that's the part that's toughest.
Where you want it more than they do, right?
Correct.
Yeah. What for you has been, what or who has been impactful in your career in getting you to rise up?
You bet. So there's been a lot of people. I've had some great mentors in my career, from personal to professional people. And I talk about them in the book and I thank them. I have my first sales trainer ever, I'm still connected with, John Costigan. I thank him. He changed the trajectory of my career by being able to be successful on the phone. So I thank him all the time. I have had people within my family write to my parents, the support of my husband, my brother, watching now my sister-in-laws, both of them are amazing in sales. And then just always having people that I've had professionally as mentors that have been close friends, or they've actually been my immediate boss. I've had a few of them as well, so a lot of them, and I'm very fortunate for that. And I think when you find them, that's the other thing I stress in the book is find your mentors, get really close, let them know, be vulnerable if something's not working for you. How did they get past it? And I think people feel nervous to say when they're not being successful at something, but they want to be. Again, it's a process and it takes years. I think about the people that I look up to today, Mel Robbins, for instance. Amazing. Well, she didn't just, wake up and become who she is today and have, millions of followers and another best-selling book that just came out. She had to work at it, and it was in her 50s, so that's what I look at. I look at Martha Stewart was 55, where she really became who she is. So it's not going to be something, some people have that right away, and that's amazing, but it doesn't have to be. So the journey doesn't have to be over if it doesn't happen at a very young age.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of ageism or lists, like online, the top 30 under 30 or 30 under 40,
Yeah.
and meanwhile there's some middle-aged people that may feel that they're left out.
I actually feel happier today and more successful today than I ever would have, because with age for me is where confidence came from, and the whole sense of it's okay to be vulnerable and say what you're not good at, where before that would have never happened. I would have been too nervous to say it. But with age, some of that has happened for me. So I'm happier to let it happen later.
Yeah, and how do you, give advice to, say someone that's watching this that, may be struggling, but maybe they do have talent, but they're afraid, maybe afraid to go to their boss or someone. What are some tips that you have?
Yeah, so don't give up. I would say be very curious always. So if you're in that situation, what's great now, because we do have search engines, you can even look up a bunch of things online that nobody has to see in the privacy of your own home, that you're searching of how to deal with this rejection or that rejection. But what I always say is I don't think, I say always find the person or in your space, in your work or in your personal life that you look up to. And then figure out what has made them so successful, and then take parts of it and make it your own special sauce. So there's a lot of things out there, products, that are just not new on their own. They're iterations of something else that was previously really great. And then somebody came along and made it better. So you look at, in my day, we rented from Blockbuster, and now you have Netflix, and then what became sending CDs is now online streaming service. So it's nothing new having movies in your own home. It's just how they've presented and changed throughout time and made it something that fits the person today, meets them where they are. So I think it's that. I think it's don't be afraid to look at somebody and think, well, if they're doing it, I can't do it. No, just make it better.
I've often had fear sometimes of calling someone that may be at a high level in my career or someone that I admire in a different career. Have you ever done that and called someone and said, I admire you, I'd love to pick your brain?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I think that's, being afraid of that, I get honored by that when somebody calls me and wants to take time with me. So people that are just coming out of school, I hire within my teams, they think, oh, I can't, they're so busy, I can't call Kelly, she's too, no, I will sit down, let's role play, let's figure it out. I will absolutely work on that. I think that's really important. And I think you have to take those chances. So I think of somebody like Sarah Blakely, who started Spanx. People ask her, how she started. She had $5,000, but it was Neiman Marcus that got her launched. How did you get into Neiman Marcus? And the answer is she called them.
Wow.
So that's what it takes. You have to have that. Don't be afraid. You could get turned down. That's fine too. But if you don't make the call or you don't ask for that help, you're not going to get it anyway.
How did you build up that muscle?
I'm very fortunate. I had a father that pushed that on me, that don't be afraid of others, that no matter what, mechanic, and he did very well for himself, but he would always say, he's not showing up in the suit, but he still has enough to offer in that same room. And I thought that was really impactful on my life, because I think that's super important. Nobody's any different, really, when you peel back the layers.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Now, I'm sure there's some differences, though, when it comes to sales and when it comes to the changes, because you talked about, hey, there's no more phone book, or I don't know if you remember the old school cold directory.
Absolutely.
Okay. What, for you, have been certain things that have been non-negotiables that you've kept in your process? Because you said process a few times that we've spoken. Is that things that you talk about in your book?
I do, and it's the phone. Part of the process is the phone, and really learning that. There's so many different things that we have access to, and it's great when you're aligned with marketing and things are coming inbound. But the thing that you can win at every time is that outbound, that net new that nobody thought about today. So because we do have search engines and things, if there's a company that you're not in, how do you look up? You can go on LinkedIn, you can find so much information about certain titles, about certain industries. You can now use AI for that, and that's what I find impactful about AI, is for your data. So you can quickly put in some, industry, a title, and it can spit back to you what they're interested in. My industry is HR, so what are the things in 2025 that this certain level will be interested within this industry about HRIS systems? Boom, here it is. But now you still have to get in the door. So you can take that, so working on, again, just your openers, working on what are the objections I'm hearing, how to get better at that. And there's so many tools today to help us get to a lot of people within a short amount of time. So you have to be ready, you have to practice. And again, when I say process, that's coming in every day. I get up really early. I want to be able to be prepared for the day. I don't want it to be who am I calling today? I want to be ready to go. And when people ask me, what is the difference of the top rep and the lowest performing rep, it's always about hard work. I can't change it. It's you have to be ready. You've got to put in the time, and it's not just going to be given to you.
What are some of your daily disciplines? You talk about getting up early.
Yeah, getting up early, really writing down what I want from my day. So, you got to manifest it too. Writing down how many calls I want to make, how many different people I want to talk to, what would be the number one win of the day, and then not beating myself up if I don't get there, but being ready the next day for it. But I have to know I work backwards. So if my goal is X amount of dollars, how am I going to get to X amount of dollars? It's this many calls, it's this many emails, it's this many meetings set, this many meetings complete, so we work backwards. And then every single month, quarter, year, I look at all of that to see where the success was, because then I'm going to double down on it, and where I didn't do so well, we're going to change it really quick.
And is that looking at your metrics or your measurables that you've paid attention to?
Absolutely.
and have marked down?
I say like an athlete, you have to know what your card looks like. Mm-hmm. So the best day on the field, an athlete doesn't leave and retire. That just becomes my new baseline. But I've got to know every single step of the way what got me there. So when I ask people their stats, I expect them to know them. How many calls did you make today? How many emails did you send today? How many conversations did you have? How many got over the fence? How many did you set a meeting for? How many sales do you have? You have to know that. It's not just, pulling numbers. You have to know it every day, because if something's not working and you keep doing it, it becomes a habit. Why do you want the bad habits? I only want the good ones. And then I want to know how to work on them and continue to make them better.
Why do you think a lot of salespeople struggle with the normal disciplines?
Because it's hard. And you have to be really vulnerable to know when you're not doing well. People want to know what their successes are, but people rarely want to dig into what they're not doing well.
And how do you, as a leader, make sure that your people know that this is important for them?
Because you have to take away the fear of, if I am vulnerable enough to say what's not working well, that makes them look bad. It makes them, potentially not have a job if I say it. You've got to take all of that off the table. Because if you get outside of your comfort zone on anything you're not doing well, and then it becomes part of your comfort zone, again, you're winning. So you have to, that's where you win the most. I have conversations all the time with people that, we walk around with the imaginary backpack that has you can pull the cord and all of a sudden our safety net. Mm. You can walk around with that, or you can actually pull it sometimes and say, I need help. And when you do, I promise you're going to get to a better place, and people will show up to help you. It's the number one thing that I talk about too on the phone when just even calling in. I would call in and say, I'm hoping you can help me. Changes the whole conversation. I'm not looking to sell anything. Yeah. I'm just hoping you can help me. And let me tell you, they'll get me to the right person just for that. Because people don't want to say, no, I don't want to help you. So it turns the sale a little bit.
And in writing the book, mm-hmm. what was the best part of the journey in getting it done for you?
Probably finishing it, if I have to be honest. Yeah. It was super difficult, a lot more difficult. It was something I had always wanted to do. So at different points in my career in coaching, I had always said I wanted to put a book of all of those things together. And just having to do it, I had parts of it, and then I'd have parts of it, but never actually a book. Writing it was super difficult. There were days, with writer's block, so I had to start doing 1,000 words a day at the toughest times just to keep the discipline. And for me, the most rewarding was then thinking back of parts of my career that really I had forgotten about. And I had started a business when I moved to Austin, Texas, with this woman, Nettie, and as a matter of fact, I talked to her on the way here. Oh. I just forgot about, and she was older than me, had already had her own business, and she taught me so much and I forgot so much of it. So writing about it and thinking about it was so rewarding, like, wow. And then it brought me back to a few things that I want to implement this again. I can't believe I forgot this. So those were the great parts.
Has it led to you being able to get out there and speak in front of organizations?
Yeah, so that was really another big part of this. I have started doing a lot more speaking engagements, podcasts, and I'm always asked about, do you have a book? So I thought, well, you better finish that book. Yes, so it has in that way too. So there's a lot that's been happening, which is exciting.
How long did it take you to write it?
A year and a half.
Not bad.
And I will say this, no, that is not bad, but it was every single extra minute I had, every weekend I had. So if I didn't have the luxury of some of those things, then it would have been a lot longer.
And are you thinking of a second book at all? Or
People ask me that right now. The answer is no. I will just ride this out. Maybe down the road. I have to get over it really was a lot of work. And I love the journey now of where it's taking me. So we'll see, but it's not on my bucket list at this moment.
yeah. Well, in doing sales, are there certain aspects of it that that give you that fire? Like what part of the sales cycle gets you most jazzed?
The win.
Yeah, that's true.
But before then, I actually think, so the win actually will be second. The number one is where I get them from a no to a yes. So that door is opening. I found the pain, there was a little window opening, and now I've got a door to go through. So I love that, where it was a no, 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 and hold on a minute. That's the first win. So once you have them. So I love that feeling. I never thought I would get through. I had a sales rep once asked to get into, this is about 20 years ago, asked to get into Starbucks. And they just never thought that would even be possible. And probably about 27 calls later, I had a meeting set on their calendar. And he still talks about it to this day. So those are actually really things that I think back to, and it's a great feeling when you open that door.
You said something key, 27 attempts. Do you ever see that sales stat thing that says that most salespeople stop after what's the first or second attempt? You ever see that,
absolutely.
the stats, and then what's it, between 5 to 12 is when?
Oh, people give up a lot.
Yeah.
They don't think they can go through. And the average right now is about 16 to 18 touches to actually open that door.
And with touches, are they looking at everything? Text, email, phone, like all in that?
LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, you got it, all of the tools.
Well, this has been delightful. And you're watching Money and Impact. And for more information on today's guest, keep an eye out in the credits. And I'm Suzanne Caldeira. Thank you.